Right? Yeah, I know y'all see the title, Let My People Go, Death of a King, right? But yeah, so like it. So yeah, we're gonna pick it up at in Exodus shit, dang but yeah, we're gonna pick it up Exodus 11. Before we get into that, of course, all praises to the Most High. We do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right? So yeah, so Moses is dealing with this Pharaoh, talk to this Pharaoh, and so talking to the Pharaoh, um, all these different plagues that's happening in Egypt. Um, so yeah, um, so we're gonna get a little history on that Pharaoh that he's dealing with, and and a little stuff on about during that time. So got a little just a little quick little video clip to show real quick. You know, well, not a video clip, a audio clip, because you guys can't see it, but you're gonna be able to hear it, hopefully. Um, so I'm gonna say fair use, fair use. This our thoughts and comments on this voice clip, right? Um, so yeah, play this one.
If you were to go up the Nile, you come to the Valley of the Kings, and there you will find a museum where on display under glass are the remains of a pharaoh named Amenhotep II. If you were to walk up to that display and look into the face of that man, you are very likely looking into the face of the very same pharaoh that Moses stood before when he declared, "Thus says Yahweh, let my people go." Now, what makes us think Amenhotep II may have been the pharaoh during the time of the Exodus? Well, we know that the Exodus occurred in 1446 BC. That would have put the Exodus during the 18th dynasty of the pharaohs. According to the Jewish historian Josephus, writing in the 1st century, he referenced an Egyptian historian named Manetho. And Manetho said that the pharaoh during the time of the Exodus was a man named Amenophis. Well, Amenophis happens to be the Greek name for Amenhotep.
Alright, and so Amenhotep would have been let me see, wait, hold on, let's play one more before we get into it.
The Pharaoh of the Exodus and some other pharaohs are not actually named in the Bible. Why is that?
Well, these are the pharaohs that Moses interacted with. They're not mentioned, but later in Scripture we have Solomon and other mentions of Egyptian pharaohs by name. Pharaohs, when they put their name in a cartouche, they believed that was to give them life. When you said Ramses, you were speaking him into existence. So essentially, I think Moses was kind of doing to the Egyptians what the Egyptians did to them. I'm not going to mention any of those pharaohs' names. I'm not going to give you credit because that would be giving you life according to your own religion. And also, it was not normal convention to put a pharaoh's name next to the term pharaoh. Pharaoh just meant great house. Round about after the Exodus, it started to be applied to a pharaoh's name as well.
And so the biblical date of 1446 BC for the Exodus falls within the reign of Amenhotep II.
Most biblical scholars believe the 480 years is an idealized number, which is common in biblical texts and temple dedication inscriptions from the ancient world. So it cannot be used for calculating the chronology of the Exodus. Moreover, Exodus 1 says one of the cities that the Hebrews built was Ramses, and this city wasn't constructed till around the year 1300 BC. So the Exodus had happened after this point.
If Amenhotep II is the Exodus pharaoh, then his firstborn son should have died in the 10th plague. And so the successor of Amenhotep II is his son, Thutmose IV, who is not his firstborn son.
There were many pharaohs whose firstborn sons did not succeed them, including Ramses II, who is a much better candidate for the Exodus pharaoh. See these videos I made as to why.
So the biblical date of 1446 BC for the Exodus falls within the reign of Amenhotep II.
Most biblical scholars believe that 480 years is an idealized number, which is common in biblical texts and temple dedication inscriptions from the ancient world. So it cannot be used for calculating the chronology of the Exodus. Moreover, Exodus 1 says one of the cities that the Hebrews built was Ramses, and this city wasn't constructed till around the year 1300 BC, so the Exodus had to happen after this point.
If Amenhotep II is the Exodus pharaoh, then his firstborn son should have died in the 10th plague. And so the successor of Amenhotep II is his son, Thutmose IV, who is not his firstborn son.
There were many pharaohs whose firstborn sons did not succeed them, including...
So as we can see right now, Amenhotep II, right, will probably be the pharaoh that he's speaking with, at the moment, as they're leaving out, because before, during when he had left for those 40 years, Amenhotep, his father was ruling. And you look at his reign, he reigned for damn near 40 years, which would be like the same exact time as the pharaoh that, kicked Moses out the first time. And you remember Moses had to leave, then when Moses, then God told Moses that he can go back because that pharaoh had died. So Amenhotep take over. So Pharaoh, so now he takes over, so he takes over. But before he takes over, Hatshepsut, Queen Hatshepsut was queen during that time, but then she died. Then that's when Amenhotep took over. And then, so then his firstborn son would be Amenhotep III, right? But he died. And so then, by the time, so now it'll be Amenhotep IV that end up reigning because the firstborn, end up dying. And so, and two, hold on, but let's go back to it though.
The Bible doesn't actually name the Pharaoh of the Exodus. The Bible doesn't actually name the Pharaoh of the Exodus. Who do you think he was?
Well, I think he's a king reigning in the 18th dynasty, which when we look at the biblical date of the Exodus, around 1446 BC, around about that period, we've got a king called Amenhotep II. Now, why him? Well, because his father before him reigned for 54 years, and Scripture tells us that Pharaoh tried to kill Moses, he escaped to the Midian, and after 40 years, God tells him to go back. But the Pharaoh of the Exodus has to be a second-born son, because the 10th plague kills all the firstborn in Egypt. Amenhotep II is the second-born son of Thutmose III, who reigned for more than 40 years. But moreover, Amenhotep II's son cannot be a firstborn son if he's going to inherit the throne. And guess what? His second-born son, Thutmose IV, inherits the throne. So Amenhotep II, I believe, is the Pharaoh of the Exodus.
The Bible?
So, one more thing before we get into the scriptures. This is from the reign of Thutmose III, Amenhotep's father. Let's. It says officially Tutmos the third ruled Egypt from his coronation on the 28th April 1479 BC at the age of 2 until his death on March 1425 BC. But the first 22 years of his reign, he was coordinated with his stepmother and Aunt Hatshepsut, which was, we already went through earlier, that was the Egyptian woman that ended up taking in Moses, who was named the Pharaoh. He became sole ruler after Hatshepsut's death, 2 years before his own death, after the death of his firstborn and heir, Amen-Hamad. Tutmosis III appointed his son and successor Amenhotep II as junior co-regent. Tutmosis III, who commanded Hatshepsut's armies and regarded as one of the greatest warrior, military commanders, and military strategists of all time, as Egypt premier warrior, pharaoh, and conqueror, and as a dominant figure in the New Kingdom period. It itself considered the height of the Egyptian power. Let's see what. So yeah, just giving a little history on this military. Expos and stuff. So, but as you can see, even in the history of it talks about his, the death of his son, and then he appointing Amenhotep II. So that'll be who Moses is dealing with. But then the firstborn son died. Then instead of Amenhotep III reigning, the fourth takes over. So, that's just how the history of it. So, yeah. So let's get into it. So Exodus 11 and 1. And the Lord said unto Moses, yet I will bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people, and every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor, jewels and silver and gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man of Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of the Pharaoh, in the sight of the people. And Moses said, thus said the Lord, about midnight I will go out in the midst of Egypt. So, basically what we just read here, from verse 2 all the way to there, the people were looting, right? And, robbing the Egyptians, because like I said, their society is jacked up, and all this stuff is happening. So we about to get up out of there, and then, God said, go ahead, get all the jewels, get all the stuff, take all that, And, so yeah. Then, Moses said, thus said the Lord, about midnight I will go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn of the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon the throne. Remember, we just read, the Pharaoh that sitting on the throne was Thutmose, right? But his firstborn died. So, because his firstborn died, Amenhotep, the second became a ruler. But and since his firstborn died, Amen, the Hotep the fourth ended up becoming king. Pharaoh, because Amenhotep III would have been Pharaoh, but he died because he was the firstborn of Amenhotep II. So, he said, and all the firstborn of the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sit upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and of the firstborn of the beast. So, and again, too, and that's why, I kind of went to the history or historians take on the events, because a lot of people will make the argument, oh, well, this stuff didn't happen and all this stuff, but there's evidence of like we just saw about the firstborn dying. Then I wish I could have found where it speaks about Amenhotep, the third body, and how he's like covered in blisters and not blisters, but like boils and look like tumorous stuff all over his bones. And a lot of them, scholars and historians contribute that to this plague that we're reading about now, right? And all the firstborn of the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and the firstborn of the beast. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there none like it, nor shall there be any more, right? So, which is, just imagine, just to take a city, for example, or a town. The whole town wakes up and their oldest child is no longer with us, right? That's going to be a horrible day in that city, right? So, that's what's going on. But against the children of Israel, this is what the Most High said. But again, this is one of my favorite verses too. And it says, but against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye should know that the Lord do put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel, right? So God said not a dog should move his tongue, right? And now, this can, so now, in this context, the Most High is calling the Egyptians dogs. In other places throughout the Bible, you hear other nations being referred to as dogs, right? So, it says, against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against any man, against man or beast, meaning God don't want none of these nations talking spicy about the children of Israel. It makes them upset to see these other nations talking down about Israel, or, talking prideful about Israel, like, just like any parent, right? You got kids, right? You see somebody, disrespecting your kid, talking down about your kid, just like bullying them, right? As a parent and you watching this, that's gonna upset you, right? And shoot, looking at some of these YouTube videos, some of these parents might fight these kids when they see stuff like that. So, again, Most High doesn't like that. So he says, but against any of the children of Israel, not a dog move his tongue against man nor beast, that ye should know that the Lord do put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. Right? So God, like, y'all gonna know that the Lord is with y'all, because when this happened, y'all gonna know that it's a difference between the Egyptians and the Israelites. we ain't, they're not like us, right? And it says and all these thy servants shall come down unto me and bow themselves unto me, saying, Get ye out, all the people that follow thee, and after that I will go out. And he went from Pharaoh in great anger. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that my wonder may be multiplied in the land of Egypt. And Moses and Aaron did all the wonders before Pharaoh, and the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go. So God did all of, God hardened Pharaoh's heart, put that spirit on him for him to be prideful and pompous and all that, right? Just so he can destroy him at the end and, and take Egypt down, right? And, because like I said, God, like, it says in Daniel, that the Most High moved in the kingdom of man, right? And, let's see. I think is. Hold on 1 second, bear with me. Okay, here we go. So it's Daniel 4:17. It says, This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to attend that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of man. Meaning God controls these nations. He set up governments and he destroyed governments, right? He set up the Egyptian government and he's about to destroy the Egyptian government. So it says, for this matter by the decree of the watcher and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to attend that the living may know. We are the living. This is something that we should know. That the living may know that the Most High rule in the kingdom of man, and give it to whomever he will, and set over it the basis of man. So God does whatever he wants. He puts whoever he wants over kingdoms and take down kingdoms. Then if he want to take the most basic, the most rudimentary group of people, that has that Neanderthal blood in them, and put them above people, he can, because it says, and give it unto whoever he will, and set over the basis of man, right? So, contextually, the basis of man will be what we will call caveman, right? And we know who descends from, the caveman, right? So, and it just so happened they to be ruling right now. So yeah, what a coinky, right? So yeah, moving on chapter 12. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year unto you. So this right month that we're in right now is the first month of the year of the Hebrew calendar that we follow, right? So, so we celebrate, so we look like Passover was, a few days ago, so about 10 days before that would have been what we would have called the New Year, right? And so this is the first month of the year. So it says, this month shall be unto you the first month, the beginning of months, it shall be the first month of the year to you. So this is how we also track the holidays, like today, like how, I'm able to say, okay, today is the, feast of blah, 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 right? Because we go off of our calendar, although, like, they got these different days and all that stuff, but it's easy to find out, just take a little research, and so somewhat basically in the middle of April to about, well, not middle, like the middle of March to about the middle of April, or somewhere in between that, time frame would be like your first month and where your new year will fall. So and speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying in the 10th day of this month. So on the 10th day, so on the 10th day, right, of that month, they shall take them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, and a lamb, according to the, okay. And you shall speak unto the congregation of Israel in the 10th day of this month, they shall take them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. So now, some people say, well, what, vegetarian, okay? You got vegetarians, right? Nothing wrong with that. But this one holiday, this high holy day of the year, this the highest, most special, greatest holiday of the year. We got a few, but this is, the one that's on the top, right? If this was a Christian thing, it would be like the Christmas of the holidays, right? Because that's, it's big, right? So even if you is a vegetarian, on that day, the whole nation of Israel is required to have a lamb, right? And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take according to the number of souls of every man according to eating shall make for account of the lamb. So basically saying, like, if you just got a little lamb, go with your neighbor, put it together, and y'all, whatever you got, y'all put it together. That way y'all can have a nice little meal. We do that all the time, like we call it cookouts and stuff like that, right? People bring, everybody bring a little dish, and you put it together. Before you know, you got a nice little meal sitting in front of you, right? So, yeah. Then, your lamb shall be without blemish. A male of the first year, you shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, right? So, get you a nice little lamb with no blemish, no defaults on it, right? Then it says, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of that same month, and the whole assembly and the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening, and they shall take of the blood and strike it on two sides of two side posts on the upper doorpost of the house wherein they shall eat, and they shall eat the flesh of the night roast with fire, right? So you roast it, meaning you barbecue it, you put it on the grill, right? Modern day, right? And that's what I did a few days ago. Put it on the grill. my sister was trying to tease me, talking about it was a little burnt. But I'm like, you supposed to grill it, you put it on the grill, you supposed to let the fire hit it. That's what the Bible says, let the fire hit the lamb, right? So, yeah, trying to come at me because my lamb it wasn't burnt, alright, straight up and down. The lamb was great, the lamb was good, it wasn't burnt. It was a little burnt, but it wasn't all that burnt, alright, straight up. But the real cool thing is, so as I'm doing my thing, right, a neighbor was like, hey, what you doing? And I told him, hey, I'm doing a little barbecue thing for a little Passover thing. So then, like, for real, I'm like, yeah, so I kind of, explained it to him a little bit, just a little bit. I had a little extra lamb. So I threw, a few pieces on there for him and his family. Then we had Passover, right? We ate the lamb together. And of course, he's not, a practicing Israelite, but the Bible says, we just read it, you got a neighbor, if you got more than enough lamb, you share it with your neighbor. Or if you don't got enough lamb, then you go to your neighbor's house, then you put it all together, then y'all, do your thing, right? So I thought it was cool. I thought it was beautiful that I was able to chop it up with him and kind of give him a little info on the Israelite thing, and then it was, had a little lamb with me. That was cool. And and they shall eat the flesh in that night, roasted with fire and unleavened bread, right? So unleavened bread too, right? So meaning no bread with yeast in it, no bread that you put in the oven, then it rises when you cook, right? So unleavened bread, right? So you gotta eat unleavened bread for the week, right? So no, going to McDonald's or Wendy's or Subway or whatever, get you a sandwich, because, at least for the week, with nothing but yeast. So, you can eat a taco, you can get you a gyro, you can eat, I believe, what else? I mean, like, basically like flatbread kind of, right? So it says, and with bitter herb, they shall eat it. So the bitter herb, it varies, right? Some people, I usually probably like garlic, because that's a bitter herb, so I probably usually like season the meat with garlic, and also have like a little clove of garlic, then you have, people use other different types of bitter herbs, barley, it all depends, whatever you like, right? But it gotta be bitter herbs, right? And they should eat it, right? And eat not it raw, nor sudden at all with water, but roast with fire. So again, it's telling you to barbecue when it says roast with fire, because like I said, we'll say barbecue today. It says, and it said with his legs and with prudence thereof, and ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, that which remaineth until the morning ye shall burn with fire. So when you prepare the Passover meal, right, that's why it's important, like, if you have too much lamb, invite somebody over to share it with. Or if you don't have enough, probably go and to somebody else and, do it that way. Because right here it says that we're not supposed to have leftovers the next morning. So then if you do have leftovers the next morning, you're supposed to burn it with fire, right? And so, any lamb left over the next day, you burn it with fire. And thus ye shall eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Meaning, eat fast, eat in a haste, eat alert, right, and be fully dressed, because Pharaoh is on our ass, right? We just killed millions of Egyptians in one night, right? So Pharaoh is going to be on that. So we ain't got time to be sitting and drinking and conversating and talking about, hey, so what's going on with those bricks over there? You know, how many bricks you do today? Well, I did 10 bricks. How many bricks you do today? I did 20. We ain't got time for that. Pharaoh is coming, right? He's getting the army together right now, you know, and so we can't just be sitting down and just chilling. So we gotta eat fast, in haste, with our staff in our hand, fully dressed, ready to move when we gotta move, right? So thus shall ye eat. Thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat in haste, and it is the Lord's Passover. So now to this day, as DeAndre would say, to this day we do it the same way, right? We roast the lamb, i.e. barbecue the lamb. We eat it with the bitter herbs, you know. Some of us would, you know, that's why I had a clove too, so you take a little, it's almost like a little, you know, shot, right? You take a little bite of the bitter herb, right? Because we have to put our minds, because the reason why we do this holiday is in remembrance of the power of God and how He saved us out of Egypt, and how He took us out of Egypt and took us to the promised land that He told us He was going to give us, right? So we kind of symbolically reenact what our ancestors went through that night, where they had to hurry up and cook, and they couldn't really make a full cake or a full thing of bread because they couldn't put the yeast in the dough because they couldn't wait for it to rise. So you had to eat the flatbread. They couldn't put chop the herbs up real nice and fine and sprinkle the herbs on the lamb real nice. So they had to just eat the herbs like they doing the little shot thingies when they take this and that and like that, right? So, and they have to be fully dressed because they have to leave. Pharaoh is kicking them out, and for a good reason. They just killed all the dang Egyptian children, right? They gotta go. So they're fully dressed. Now where we at? So it says here, eat in a haste, meaning eat fast. So we reenact that today. So so when you're having a Passover meal, like for example, right? I know it might be extreme, but think of like the Simpsons, right? You see like when Simpsons be sitting at the dinner table, they right? So yeah, so not to say that you should choke yourself when you're eating, but you just eat a little faster than normal, and you, of course, it's a feast, it's a festival, you enjoy yourself, and you just eat a little faster, right? So, but, it's not like one of those things where you just sit back and you chill, you got your little house clothes on, or, your little sleepwear on, you got your little flip-flops on, so you're just going to just probably lay in the bed or sit on the couch and eat. No, you don't do it like that. Fully dressed, like you about to go out and do something very important. You're eating alert, and like that, right? That's how it's done, right? And like I said, it's a festival, right? We, there's a lot of big celebrations, during this time. All that, right? For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I will smite all the firstborn of the land of Egypt, both man and beast. Against all the gods of Egypt, I will execute judgment. I am Yahweh. And the blood shall be for you for a token upon the doorhouse where ye are. And when ye see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you, to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And this land shall be, and this day shall be unto you for a memorial. Like I just said, we do this in memory of our ancestors in that very night when they left out of Egypt, the haste that they had to be in, the rush that they had to be in, how they had to just hurry up and gather everything, how they, the Lord said, make sure you cook the meat all the way, you know what I'm saying? Make sure the meat is cooked, we don't eat raw meat, right? So, make sure it's all cooked. So, we just got them looting, we done broke into the Egyptians' stuff and took all their gold and all that stuff. So, it's time to go, right? So, and this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep the feast to all, to the Lord throughout your generation, and you shall keep the feast by ordinance forever. Right? So it says throughout all your generations. So as long as we're generating, right? Generating means to reproduce. As long as we're generating, we should be keeping this holiday. Right? So that means we teach our children about this holiday. Right? And the Lord said we do it forever. Right? So we don't celebrate Easter. A lot of our people getting ready to celebrate Easter. They're buying Easter eggs and got bunnies and baskets and stuff. And they're about to celebrate a pagan holiday that honors orgies. That's what it is. It's about orgy parties. That's what the concept of Easter comes from. It comes from women that had a hard time getting pregnant. They will come together, and they will have these orgy parties. And they call it Easter. And they celebrate the goddess Ashtar. Because the goddess Ashtar was the goddess of fertility. Right? So that's where all that comes from. And a lot of our people claim to be Bible believers, Jesus believers. They about to go celebrate that. They're going to sit in church, and they're going to celebrate that. And they're not going to think nothing is wrong with it at all. But this is what we did right here, Passover. This is us. This is a holiday for kings and queens, right? This is the Lord done killed, the Lord done destroyed a whole nation for us. This is where this birth of this holiday comes from. It comes from the Lord proving that He is who He said He was to the children of Israel by freeing us from the oppression of the Egyptians, destroying their nation, bringing us out, and making us a great nation. So that's why we celebrate this. And we honor our ancestors and the stuff that they went through, by and remembering of this holiday. And the Lord said, okay, 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread, even the first day you shall put away unleavened out your house. So again, you're not supposed to, first day is Passover. So then next day after Passover is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is 7 days. So, but the day before the day Feast of Unleavened, you're supposed to take all the leavened bread out your house. So whatever type of bread you got in your house that got yeast in it, take it out. And you replace it with unleavened bread, right? And it says, 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread, even the first day you shall put away unleavened out your house. For therefore, whosoever eat leavened bread from the first day until the seventh, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. Meaning God, you get cut off from the nation, right? You're done, right? But of course, we got the Mashiach Yahushua, right? Who we can ask for forgiveness, right? When we do, probably mistakenly and have probably missed these holidays, wasn't celebrating it because we didn't know. So we can ask for forgiveness and repent and then start keeping these holidays. right? And the leaven, and so it's spiritually speaking, not just the bread that's in your kitchen, but the leaven that's in your, as the Southern pastor say, as the leaven that's in your heart, right? The uncleanliness, right? The wickedness, the gripe that you might have for the next person. You might have a grudge against this person, right? And so you can't go eating the Lord's Passover knowing damn well you hate this, you got hatred in your heart for such and such. That's crazy. So you got to get all the leaven out of you before this day, right? Before this day, before this Passover, all that hatred, all those disagreements that you may have with whoever, you want to make sure you can make amends. You want to be on track to make amends to that, so you can be worthy to eat the Passover dinner. The Passover feast, right? So you don't want to be eating the Passover feast and got all that stuff going on, all that leaven in you, because you have to not only get rid of the leaven out the house, but the leaven out of you. That wickedness, that destruction, that demon that drives you, get all that stuff out, right? So that's as far as the leaven, and that's what it is. Because a lot of times people, especially in the Christian church, they'll be having these little holidays that they be celebrating. Be sitting in church, knowing they ain't go well to either A, sleeping with each other man, or a pastor sleeping with somebody's wife, stealing money. They can't stand such and such over there, and all that. But then they come together and they have these little so-called holy convocations, and they full of leaven, right? But it says right here, 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your house. For whosoever eat unleavened bread from the first day, unleavened until the seventh, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. So get that hatred out of your heart. Get that wickedness out for your fellow brother, your fellow Israelite, right? That's crazy to me how we so quick to hate each other. People that look just like you, but the people that actively causing us harm, actively doing things that can affect us collectively. I mean, we blind. We don't see that. That's why it's so good and so, great and like amazing. I almost want to say. I kind of almost lost words. Like Carmelo Anthony. I heard people put up money to help pay for his bond and all that. We usually don't see that. That's what we should do, right? The young man, was in a situation where he had to defend himself, defend his life in that situation. He stood his ground. That's what it was. And it was amazing. And like I said, I'm almost speechless to the point that I've never seen that before. That our people like band together and and did that. Usually it'd be people talking about, oh well, he shouldn't have did this or he's wrong, blah blah blah. But and it don't be no money put up, right? But on the flip side, it'd be like Dylan Roof got like, what was it, $1 million bond, right? That boy Kyle Rittenhouse got out on bond, right? Because they people know how to come together, right? Even if that person is clearly a murderer, those people will come together and build that person up. So, I'm like, that's why I love the black community. It's like ever since that North Carolina thing, like, or not, was it North Carolina or Alabama, where the little boat thing where they had to whoop on them people at the boat, right? When they try to jump on the security guard, the black guy. And it's like ever since we banded together from that day, it's like I've been loving the spirit that our people have. I like it. That's what's up. I ain't mean to go on a rant. But yeah. So it says, in the first day there shall be a holy convocation. In the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation unto you. Meaning we gather together, we come together as a people. We had this Passover. It's the biggest thing, the greatest festival, feast of all time. The greatest of the greatest. You can read it throughout the whole Bible. That's why I'm talking about it like this. Because whenever we did celebrate Passover, it was always a big event, right? It was always, we trying to do it better than we did it last time. Like, you remember last time, right? Yeah. Well, it's gonna be better than last time. Yeah, we trying to, that's what we was doing, right? And it says, so it says, holy convocation, meaning we come together, we worship the Lord, we come together, we celebrate together on the first day and on the seventh day of this holiday. Then it says, and there shall be a holy convocation unto you, no manner of work shall be done in them. So on those 2 days, the first and the seventh, we treat it like a Sabbath, like the seventh day, like a Sabbath day, where we don't do any paid labor, for lack of better terms, where we don't go to work, right? Where we don't go to work and clock in and punch in and work, because it's our holiday, and it's to rest on those days, right? I used to work with this so-called Jewish man, and this guy used to be missing from work, like, it seems like damn near 3 days out of the week. And I'm like, why is he never at work? Like, oh, he's Jewish, he's got a holiday, right? So, even though they're not really the people who this book is talking to, who Moses is speaking with right now, although they adapted our ways and took on our holidays, so they get all these dangle days off of work, right? Off of our days, right? When if we just take all of our culture, we can get those days off, right? Imagine telling your job, I'm a Jew, I'm a practicing Israelite. Passover coming up, I'm gonna need the week off, right? Then it's a religion, right? So they say, so they can't say no, right? Or maybe you can't really afford to do the week. Maybe, like I said, the first and the seventh, the holy convocations, like, alright, I'm gonna need this day off and this day off, because I do Passover, right? Or any other holidays that we got. We got a lot of holidays that's multiple days, they're not just one day holidays, right? So yeah, I'm looking at this guy I used to work with just before I knew that, I understood what I understood now, before I was in the truth. Yeah, I'm like with jealousy and envy, like, dang, I wish I was Jewish. They got the best holidays. It made me have to Google what religion got the most holidays. I'm like, dang, I need to figure out how to get these days off. No, but no, seriously though, right? So it says, right back to it. And the first day should be a holy convocation, and the seventh day there should be a holy convocation to you. No matter of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only men may be done. So it says, no matter of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done. So meaning we can click on that day, we can, whatever we need to do to, get the food and preparation and any type of errands we gotta run that day, but, it's just like, we not gonna be, doing things like, like far as like working, meaning like I got a supervisor and all that stuff. Not like that, right? But this stuff that's for that day, right? You know what I'm saying? And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for the same day I have brought your enemies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore, I brought your armies. I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generation by a ordinance forever. So yeah, so we keep the Feast of Unleavened forever by ordinance and by our generation. And of course, we're still generating to this day. We're still multiplying because, like they said on Baby Kids, we don't die, we multiply, we still generate. So we keep these holidays because we're still generating. We're still birthing Israelites. We're still making children. So even though a lot of us might not identify with Israel, being an Israelite, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's like a Chinese person cannot wake up and say, well, I don't want to be Chinese no more. There's nothing you can do about it. You're born Chinese. So you're born an Israelite. It's not a religion. It's not a, some type of, no, it's an ethnicity, all right? So you can't change your ethnicity no more than a leopard can change their spots, right? So maybe some might not identify with the title of an Israelite, but ethnic-wise, you are a Israelite, right? And so because we are Israelites, we are supposed to keep these laws, right? And these holidays. And it says, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at even you shall eat unleavened bread until one of the 20th, 1 and 20th day of the month at even. So yeah, so like I said, we eat unleavened bread for that whole week, right? And it starts from the 14th day of that month, right? So, and again, if you see when we took Passover this year, on the Gregorian calendar that we follow today, it fell on the 12th, if you notice, right? But the Bible says the 14th day. So somebody that's thinking about the Greco calendar, that the system that we follow today, they're like, well, that will be April 14th. But again, we follow the Hebrew calendar. So that 14th day didn't fall on the April 14th. It fell on April 12th, right? So, because we follow a different calendar. Although, of course, my phone says what it says, and, you write on a, fill out a paper, you write the date, whatever. But, those of us that's, is looking to take back our culture, we have, and we follow that calendar, right? And it says, 7 days, there should be no unleavened found in your house, for whosoever eat unleavened, which is leaven, which even that soul shall be cut from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Right? So, now what that stranger means, not talking about stranger meaning a person that's not ethnically Israelite, meaning like, okay, we live in America, right? Let's just say in a perfect world, our people were back in the land of Israel doing their thing, living it up, right? Being Israelites. But we're here in America. We're Israelites too, but we're here in America. So we come to Jerusalem to partake in Passover, because that's the law. We all required to come to Jerusalem to do the Passover. But although we're strangers, because we don't live, we're strangers because we don't live in the land. That's why we'll be strangers. So it's not talking about strangers like like ethnically a Gentile, right? And and you shall eat, and you shall eat nothing unleavened in your habitation. Shall ye eat unleavened bread? Then Moses called for the elders of Israel and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill it, and kill the Passover. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in blood that in a basin, and strike the lintel and 2 of the side posts with the blood that is in basin, and none of you shall go out the door of his house until morning. For the Lord will pass through and smite the Egyptians. And when he see the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 sides posts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in and unto your house and smite you, right? So the destroyer is this angel that's coming through the land of Egypt and going to be killing things indiscriminately. But the firstborn, though, really, well, let me rephrase that. Killing the firstborn indiscriminately, right? And anything that probably get in his way. So now, so the Lord is telling the Israelites, put the last blood on your doorpost and stay inside. Don't come out. So, so if they disobeyed that and they came out, that death angel, that destroyer, they would have died with the Egyptians, right? And and some say, probably shouldn't mention it because I'm not prepared to go into it though, but some say that this destroying angel was Christ. But yeah. For the Lord will pass through and smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and the 2 side posts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your house and smite you. And ye shall observe this thing for a ordinance in thee and thy sons forever. And ye shall come, and it shall come to pass when ye come into the land which the Lord give you according to he has promised, ye shall keep his services. And that's exactly what we're doing now. We're observing this day by reading the accounts, observing his holidays, celebrating it, celebrating the Passover, keeping the Feast of Unleavened Bread, going over the scriptures, remembering what our ancestors did, going through the history and seeing all the stuff that they was going through, the oppression they was going through under these different pharaohs and all that stuff, right? And how, they was going through it so bad that, they had uprisings where they would have little mini scrimmages where they be like rioting and looting and stuff like that. Like how, a few years ago that we seen with us before when a lot of those unarmed shootings was happening. A lot of people was getting upset. So we see the parallels, right? And so yeah, and it says and it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, What mean ye by this service? And ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the house of the children of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses, and the people bowed heads in worship, right? So this is something we're supposed to tell our kids, how great Yahweh is and what he did to the Egyptians. This is how Yahweh become famous. Like, we keep telling this story, like how he destroyed the Egyptians. Then we show the evidence, right? We go to the history and the evidence, right? About how soon as we left, that's when you start, where they talking about the dark ages of Egypt and all that stuff, with the second dark ages, right? That would be the second Dark Ages, because the first Dark Ages was when the ruling Egyptians first got put out of power, and then the Hyksos came into rulership, and then then the New Kingdom, during the 18th dynasty, all that stuff what we're reading about now, that came into play. Then after we left out of Egypt, then that's when Egypt went into the Dark Ages and continued into the decline to the point where you have Cleopatra and Julius Caesar and everybody else trying to be Egyptians. So yeah, they fell off, right? And like I said, the history goes with it, and that goes with it too. Like, especially when we get into the statue of Daniel and the different ruling empires, like, we say this all the time, like, when you look at history, all the great empires, what they had in common, they had the Israelites as their workforce. For lack of better terms, they had the Israelites as their slaves, right? Egyptian empire was great, they had us as their slaves. The Babylonian Empire became great, they had us as their slaves. The Persian Empire was great, guess what? They had us as their slaves. The Greeks came up after them, guess what? Alexander the Great and those Greeks, they had us, the Israelites, as their slaves. You know what? The Romans became great. And you know what happened to the Romans and why they was great? They had us as their slaves. Guess what? Britain and America became great. And how did that happen? They went to the west coast of Africa and took us as slaves. So you see the pattern here? Like, we are the people. Because historically, archaeologically, and biblically, we fit, right? And even in the book of Tobit, we read this before. There was a general that was explaining the history of the Israelites to one of his superiors, and he was explaining that, whenever the Israelites is keeping the laws of God, that they're untouchable, and the only way that you can enslave the Israelites or take control over them if you can trick them and get them to not follow their God. Get them, a little bit involved in something else. So these people know how to keep us where they need to keep us at. That's why they give us Christianity. They give us all these other false religions and stuff. Then the history is right in our face. All we got to do is look for it and look at it and figure it out and see that, what they said doesn't match up, right? So move on. So then, where was I? And that ye say it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the house of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses and our people, bowed their heads in worship. And the children of Israel went away and did as Yahweh commanded Moses and Aaron, and this, so they did. So, we went to go prepare the lamb and all that stuff. And it says, and it came to pass that in midnight the Lord smote the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on the throne unto the firstborn captive that was in Dungan, and all the firstborn cattle. Right? So, the little voice clip that we played earlier, because we got over here, we can't, play the video. It spoke about how Pharaoh's firstborn son died, right? And, then how, Tutmos the fourth ended up reigning, instead of Tutmos the third, because Tutmos was the firstborn, but he died, right? So and Pharaoh rose up that night, and all of his servants and all of Egypt, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go. Serve Yahweh as he has said. Also take your flocks and your herds as he has said, and be gone, and be blessed, and bless me also. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in a haste. So the Egyptians like, come on, get. The Egyptians was pushing us out. They're like, come on, get up out of here. Y'all gotta go. Y'all, man, y'all ruined everything. Y'all killed my family. Just go, right? I mean, your God is too powerful. Like, the longer y'all stay here, it's crazy, right? So it says, so the Egyptians were urging upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste, for they said, we will all be dead men. Like, y'all gotta go, because y'all stay here, we all gonna die. We gonna die. So y'all gotta go. And it says the people took their dough before it was leavened, because remember that's why we don't eat it with the leaven, because they didn't have time to eat it, because the Egyptians was pushing them out. They like, man, I gotta go. Like, nah, homie, no, you can't grab that. Nah, put that down. Just go. Nope, can't do that. Nope, just go. Get up out of here, right? That's what it's on. So then, and the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneeling straws being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders, and the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of raiment. So we got up out of there, but we gonna leave, but we gonna take a few things, god dang it, as we left. So we took their gold, we took their jewels, their all their little nice clothes, all that stuff, right? We got down on them really good, right? Then it said, and the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, meaning God made it so that the Egyptians didn't have no power, they just let it happen, right? Remember, like, during COVID, right? When it was people saying this, like, yeah, it's easy to steal out of Walmart. They're not gonna stop you. Ain't nobody at the doors. They're not gonna stop you. If you been stealing, they're just gonna let you walk out, right? Or there's a video where this guy goes into like, looks like some type of clothing store, maybe a Macy's or something, and he just got a big old garbage bag and just shoving little dress clothes and clothes up in the bag, right? And the lady like, can you please stop? Can you please stop? And he like, he said something, but he just basically just mosey up out of there, right? So this is envision that, but a vision that's just going all over the nation, right? And so the Egyptians is at a loss. And number one, what you gonna do? You're sad. You done lost your one of your kids, right? So it's like, fine, take it. All right, take it. All right, take it. Just go. All right. That's where it was, right? And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, like I said, meaning the Egyptians didn't bother them. They let them take whatever they needed to take, because they had no power, And it says, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. So like I said, don't let the old English fool you where it says borrowed and lent, because if you follow this book and keep reading and keep reading and keep reading and keep reading all the way till you get to the end of the book, we never gave none of that stuff back, alright? We never gave it back. So don't let the lend and the borrow thing fool you, right? So then, and the children of Israel journey from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men, 600,000 were on foot that were men, besides children. And the mixed multitude also went with them, and the flocks and the herds and every much cattle. So, and going back to that little clip we played earlier, we were talking about, what was it? So, because the guy, one of the historians had mentioned, that talks about Ramses, but the city of Ramses don't come until about 100 years after the Israelites were, left, right? So again, you remember I was telling you, I was hoping Bill would mention it, but he didn't, to help me out. In history, it's a term that they use where they will refer to a modern, a location by the modern name that the contemporary people know it as. So that's why, his name died by when we seen Ramses there. So, and it says, what was it? And it says, and a mixed multitude also went out. So then you have people like, here's a mixed multitude. Again, right? We can get into the mixed multitude. Let's get into the mixed multitude real quick. Let's debunk the mixed multitude thing right now. Yes, it was a mixed multitude, right? Because again, we were not the only people in Egypt that was enslaved. The Egyptians had, pretty much the known world, as they reached enslaved at that time. But the important thing is when we read this, God said, "Let my people go." He wasn't talking about everybody else. But of course, we get up out of there, then Egypt is being destroyed. So then the other people that's enslaved too, they're like, well, shoot, let us come too, let us hitch a ride, right? So the mixed multitude died in the wilderness, right? They all died off in the wilderness. So a lot of people say, well, the mixed multitude, because people try to make that seem like that's an argument to say that, people outside of Israel have an opportunity to partake in this, the promises of God. But when you actually read, it tells you that the mixed multitude died, right? Let's see. I'm find it. I think that's it. I didn't find it. But trying to find a verse where it talks about how they died off. But the mixed multitude died off. I won't find it, But I'll find it. Hopefully, I'll find it before this over with. If not, I'll put it in the comments. So yeah. Oh yeah. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Oh, my bad. Hold on. Trying to find this thing. Okay. Alright, but yeah, let's get back to 38. So it says, and the mixed multitude went up also with them in the flocks and the herds, and even every much cattle, and they baked unleavened cakes with dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt, and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves any victual. So, meaning they had time to prepare the food, they had to take it how it was. Now, the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even that same day, it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. It is a night to be much observed unto the Lord for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is the night of the Lord to be observed for all the children of Israel in their generation. So this is something to be observed, because this is our deliverance coming out of Egypt. We probably would have been, basically worked to death if we had to stay. We would have been those bones that they be finding in Egypt now and talking about, oh, what happened to this person? We would have been them, right? A long time ago, if the Lord hadn't saved us out of Egypt, right? That's why He got to save us out of this Egypt, because if we don't make it out of this Egypt, we ain't going to be, it ain't going to be no more of us. Go to the Bible says, unless there be any flesh, those days will cut short unless there will be no flesh left, right? Because these people are hell bent on destroying the children of Israel, right? The Black, Hispanic, and Native American people is the enemy of this place, right? We see it every day. We see it every day on the news. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover, there shall no stranger eat thereof. So now this stranger is talking about no Gentiles, no outside ethnically Israelite, right? So if you're not an ethnic Israelite, you cannot eat the Passover meal, right? You have to be a Black, Hispanic, and Native American, Indian, that has lineage to the Israelites, to Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to eat this thing, right? And of course, anybody can eat it, but as far as when we come as a people, you're not supposed to invite somebody that's not a Israelite to partake at your house or your event to eat with you, right? We don't do that. This is a holy thing, okay? We are a holy people. Holy means to be separate. And we don't, and the Lord said don't do it. Do that, right? A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof, and the house shall be eaten, in one house shall it be eaten, thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof. So meaning, no leftover place. You go to somebody's house, you go for Passover, maybe they got the Passover thing at their crib. So no leftover place. No way I'm going to take this to the crib and eat it. Because, again, we're not supposed to have leftovers. Because we're not supposed to keep it until the next day. So it says, all the congregation of Israel should keep it, and the stranger shall, and when the stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, then let him come near to keep it. So now this stranger is talking about a different, it's talking about a physical Israelite, an ethnic Israelite. The first time we saw a stranger right here where it says, there shall no stranger eat thereof, that's talking about a heathen, a Gentile, someone from a Gentile nation. But this stranger is talking about, far as like people like us, we live here in America, and if we come back to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover, they are not allowed to not allow us to celebrate. They have to let us celebrate it, because we are still Israelites, even though we don't live in the land, right? So it says, not them over there, but I'm talking about in a perfect world, if our people was actually over there, and just to say we were over here for whatever reason, when that holiday comes up, then we will go over and celebrate. Then, and when the stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near to keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, right? So you gotta be circumcised to eat the Passover meal, right? And that Israelite that does not live in the land of Israel, that's probably living in another country somewhere, when he comes back to the land to celebrate, it says, he should be as one born in the land, meaning we treat him like a brother. We don't treat him like he's a new Negro. We treat him like he's an Israelite, because he is. He just don't live in the land of Israel, right? So, thus did all the children of Israel, and the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. And it came to pass the same day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. Yeah, we came up out of there. The same way how we gonna come out of here, right? And Jeremiah calls the second Exodus, right? And the second Exodus is going to be great. It's going to be, we're talking about this Exodus right now, right? Because it's supposed to, it's a holiday. The Bible says we celebrate this for generation to generation. But our dear brother Jeremiah tells us this. He said, when the Lord gathers us out of this Babylon, out of America, and every other place that we scattered, it's going to be so great. We're not going to speak about this, we're not going to speak about this account. We're not going to be talking about how great this was and how the Lord brought fire down from heaven and he killed the firstborn of Pharaoh, and we ain't going to be speaking on that. Like, we ain't going to be talking about, it was like, he parted the Red Sea and just all this cool stuff going on. That's great. We're going to be talking about it. We talked about it, right? But there's something greater that's going to happen. because the final plague here was the Lord killing the firstborn of all the Egyptians. But the final plague here in this Egypt, the Lord is not going to just kill the firstborn. He's going to kill the secondborn. He's going to kill the thirdborn. He's going to kill the fourthborn, the mother, the auntie, the sister, the brother, the cousin, the father, the sister, the brother, everybody, right? When that thermonuclear bomb goes off, when there's thermonuclear destruction, when Putin and Russia and Iran over there decide to push that button, that's our deliverance. That's when we get up out of here, right? Pursuant to Zephaniah and Zechariah, right? Trying to find this thing real quick. Find it like this. And help a little bit. Bear with me, bear with me. I'm gonna try like this. Keep my nose right there. Hey, here we go, right here. Alright, Slovakia, found it. Jeremiah 16 and 14. It says, therefore, behold, the days cometh, said Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth that brought the children out of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Right? So no more, it's going to come a day where we're not going to be talking about this Passover. We're going to be celebrating a different Passover, pursuant to the destruction of America, right? And it says, therefore, behold, the day comes, said the Lord, thus said Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, the Lord that liveth that brought up out the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, but the Lord that liveth that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north, right? What is the land of the north? America, right? Let's read it again. But the Lord liveth that brought out. Therefore behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. So, like I said, we ain't gonna be talking about this. But the Lord said that lived, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north, which is America, prophetically, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land which that I have given unto their fathers. Right? So, and that's what is getting ready to happen. When Putin gets fed up with Trump or whoever, and he get fed up with how America is doing things, when Iran get fed up with America supplying Israel and everybody else, they gonna say, you know what, let's push the button. Then when they push the button, what's gonna happen? behold, the Lord, it says, therefore the Lord in that day, therefore, behold, the day cometh, the Lord that shall no more be said, the Lord that liveth, that brought the children out of the land of Egypt. So, because that's going to be amazing, right? I'm giving y'all the spoiler alert. That's going to be amazing. Imagine, and hopefully we are part of that number. Imagine knowing that imminent death is coming. These nuclear hypersonic bombs is on their way. You get the alert. It says 15 minutes before impact, right? Then all of a sudden, here comes Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, which I say, here comes Yahweh Shai, he's sending his son Yahweh Shai. And Yahweh Shai is coming with the millions, millions, I gotta say it like the rock, of his angels. And we get saved in the nick of time, right before the impact. That's amazing. That's something to talk about. And that's going to be great. That's why Jeremiah tells us that it says, therefore, behold, the days come, said the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord that liveth, that brought the children out of Israel, but out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth, that brought the children of Israel out from the land of the north, from all the lands where he had gathered them, and I would bring them again into the land which I gave to their fathers. Right? And behold, I will send for many fishers, said the Lord, and they shall fish them. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to fish the people. We're trying to get the people to understand. Come back to your nation. Come back to your commandments. Keeping the faith. Come back to your God, the real God. Right? He says, said the Lord, I will send many fishers, said the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after I will send many hunters, and they shall hunt them. For every mountain and every hill, and out of every hole and every rock. Right? So we fishing, right? We trying to gather the people. And the ones that we don't get, that we can't gather, the ones that's probably scattered somewhere, haven't heard the message, we're going to go hunt for them and find them and say, brother, sister, wake up. Was that a Spike Lee movie? Like, wake up, right? We do that, right? Wake them all up. Like it tells you in Isaiah 65, I believe, or 66, right? And it says, one law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that is sojourn among you. Meaning, like I said, in the perfect world, if our people was in the land, running things, controlling things, us, for example, living here in America, when we come back home to our country, Israel, they should not treat us different. They should treat us like we're Israelites that have been there forever. Right? So thus did the children of Israel as the Lord commanded, and Moses and Aaron did they. And it came to pass the same day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. And that's what he did, and that's what he's going to do this time. And it says, just read a little bit of 13. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, sanctify unto me all the firstborn, whosoever opened the wound, open the wound among the children of Israel, both male and beast, it is mine. And it says, Moses said unto the people, remember this day which ye came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by the stretch of the hand the Lord brought ye out of this place. There shall no leavened bread be eaten. This day came ye out of the month of Abib. So that's the name of this first month. The name of this month that Passover fall in is called Abib. Right? Now, granted, reading through this Bible, you don't get many of the months' names. You know, the Bible mentioned a few of the months, but typically the Bible mentioned the months that have the holidays in them, right? So that's why we might not, see all the months, but typically the months that have the holidays in them, it would, mention them. And it says, where am I? And it shall be when the Lord shall bring thee into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, and the... Okay, yeah, so this, so there you have it. Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, God bringing us out of Egypt, delivering us from that evil, meanie, nasty Pharaoh, right? Getting us out of there, right? Delivering us out of there. So bringing us into the promised land, right? So now we on our way out, and that is the story of the Passover, right there. That is the Passover story. And, Lord doing great miracles, destroying our enemies, showing us that He is a God for us and He fights for us, right? Because, like it says, I'll get like 2 more before we get up out of here. Psalms 147:19. He showed His word unto Jacob, His statutes and His judgments unto Israel. So as we keep reading, that's what He's about to do, right? Because he came to our ancestor Jacob and showed Himself unto Jacob, our ancestor. And He's about to give His laws and His statutes unto Israel. We just read the story. We read what happened. We read He took us out of the land of Egypt. I wish I could have found the exact verse, but we're not done covering the subject where it tells us that the mixed multitude died in the wilderness, right? They didn't come into the promised land with us, right? So it says, He showed His word unto Jacob, His statutes and His judgments unto Israel. So we know about these things. We saw what God did in Egypt. We saw how He parted the Red Sea. We saw what the Most High did, right? And we saw how He took care of us in the wilderness, right? And it says, He showed His word unto Jacob, His statutes and His judgments unto Israel. He had not dealt so, what did it say? He had not dealt so with any nation. Because we didn't read about God pulling anybody else out of Egypt. He said, let my people go. Then when those other people came out of Egypt with us, He killed them in the wilderness. Right? That's what happened. Right? So He didn't, it says, He had not dealt so with any nation, and as for their judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So they don't know this book, because God didn't give them the understanding. He only gave the understanding to the Israelites, like we just read here. Here, one more. This is Amos 3:1. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel. He didn't say, hear this word that the Lord has spoken, O world, O people of the world. He didn't say that. You will never see that in this book, right? Because this book, from beginning to end, is all about you. You being the Israelites, right? Black, Hispanic, and Native American people of Negro descent. This is what this book is about. And it says, hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt. Right? We just read about how He brought us out of Egypt and the things He did. He destroyed it. We read the history of what was going on and behind the scenes, how it was, civil unrest and, looting and just stuff going on, right? Then topple that with the, the plagues and stuff that the Lord is bringing, right? So it says, hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up out from the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. God said, of everybody on the earth, you only have I known, right? It's what they say, 8 billion people on the planet, but the Lord says, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. So that's why we go through what we go through collectively as a people, and it seems like we can't get a break collectively, because when we do things against the laws of God, God punishes us. He does not do that to every other nation. Yeah, every nation got these little things that happen, stuff, whatever, right? But God acts as in the words of T.I. expeditiously when it comes to punishing us, right? He does it very quickly. And the Bible says that he chastises those who he loves. He chastises us. He punishes them. It's the difference, right? That earthquake that happened in Turkey a couple years ago, that is a punishment, right? That's not a chastisement. What else happened? Like, just look around the world. That's called punishment, right? For what they done to us. Let's get this one real quick. Joel 2:27. It says, and ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel. What did the Lord say? This is Joel 2:7. He's a prophet of God. And he says, and ye shall know that I am in the midst of the Lord. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel. And I am the Lord your God. What? I am the Lord your God and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed. That's what God said. He said, I am your God and none else. Because again, he said, let my people go. That's what he told Pharaoh. He didn't say let everybody go. Because Egypt had a lot of people, a lot of different people there that's in slavery. We can look at the depictions of the slaves that they have, and we can say, okay, these is us. Those are the Manoleans. These are, who else they had over there? They had some of the little people from the Levant area, off the top of my tongue. But the Japhetic people, and all that stuff, right? So we can see the depictions of the people that they had enslaved. But the Lord said, let my people go. He says, and you should know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else. And my people should never be ashamed. And we should not be ashamed when we know this information. When we know that the Lord is our God, we should not be ashamed. And he's only our God. But the Bible says so, right? Let's get this too. I know I said one more, but of course, when you're dealing with an Israelite, one more is always one more. Hold on, where is that? Hold on. One second. I can't find it. Here we go. I don't know why. Romans 3:1. So Romans 3:1 says, what advantage then have the Jew, right? What advantage then have the Jew? Hold on. What advantage then have the Jew? Or what profit is there of the circumcision? So what advantage do we have claiming claim to being Jews, being Israelites, and having the covenant? Because that's what the circumcision is, that first covenant. Much every way, chiefly because that unto them, who's to them? The Israelites, were committed the oracles of God. Because God only gave us the oracles to understand in this book, this doctrine, this knowledge, right? So Paul is telling you, what advantage then have the Jew? Or what profit is there of the circumcision? Much in every way, because chiefly because that thou unto them were committed the oracles of God, because God gave it to us to know. Like we just read in Joel 2:27, I am in the midst of Israel, and I am your God and none else. And even in the New Testament, Paul, this is after the death and resurrection, he's telling you that it is an advantage, it is a good thing, it is a advantage to be a Jew, because God gave us the knowledge, right? He gave us the wisdom, right? Let's get this one. Ecclesiasticus 17:17, right? So people will say, well, God created all of us, and why do we only, what about, blah, blah, blah. So Ecclesiasticus 17, for the division of nations of the whole earth, he set rulers over every people. So again, when you get into that word ruler also can be, go to gods and all that, right? So it says, he sets rulers over every people. But Israel is the Lord's portion. So yes, God created all 8 billion people, or however they say is on the planet. But what it says, for every division of the nation of the whole earth, he set rulers over every people. But Israel is the Lord's portion. So God gave those other nations their own gods to worship. That's why when you go through history and archaeology, you can see that they had their own gods that they followed, right? Even Pharaoh said, go worship your God Yahweh, right? You can read through this Bible everywhere where they acknowledge that Yahweh belonged to us, and they had their own gods, right? So it says, for the division of every nation of the whole earth, he set rulers over every people, but Israel is the Lord's portion, right? Let's get Deuteronomy 4:17. Start at 19. Then it says, and lest thou lift up thy eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, and even the host of heaven. So the host of heaven is talking about what we would call for the gods, okay? The other nations, the gods that these other nations worship, because there are other heavenly beings outside of the Most High. That's why he is called the Most High God, right? So God created these other pantheons of gods, but he is the Most High God, right? So it says the host of heaven. So he created the host of heaven for everybody else to worship Zeus and Thor and Gilgamesh and all these other gods that they come up with, right? That they follow. But it says, and thou, unless thou lift up thy eyes unto heaven, and lest thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars. We have other cultures that, like the people that follow the Islamic faith, even though they might fight you on this, They worship the moon and the stars. That's what the crescent moon is. It's a moon god. Allah is a moon god. Right? So we don't do that. So it says, lest thou see the sun and the moon and the stars, even the host of heaven, talking about these angelic beings, right? You have some are people that worship angels and stuff. They want to try to pray to angels and do all this stuff, right? You have the Catholic Church where they deify the so-called saints, right? Which is nothing but Roman mythology and Greek mythology disguised as Roman Catholicism. Because all those different saints and all that stuff, when you get into it, a lot of their characteristics make up the same characteristics of the pantheons of the Roman and the Greek gods. But we don't know these things because we don't know these, because we don't look for these things, right? It's crazy. So it says, lest thou lift up thy eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, and even the host of heaven, should thou be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God had divided unto all nations under heaven. So God gave the other nations to serve those things. He said, y'all, that's y'all thing. Y'all go serve the stars and the moon and stuff like that, right? You go worship your Krishna and your Shiva and your Buddha and stuff like that, right? Y'all go do that. But the Israelites are supposed to follow me, Yahweh, right? It's cool. So God divided up. It's like these different guys, and He gave them their different dominions to reign over. So when you get to Revelation and talk about these spirits that reign over a certain part of the earth, and He released them to influence a certain region of the world, and you see all the hell that's breaking loose over there. These are these different divine entities that the Lord created for His purpose, right? But He is the Most High God that He wants us to worship. And everybody else, they can follow what they want to follow because He created them for them to follow. As we're reading, right? We're reading this. This is not something we're making up. So we cannot say this book is for everybody and God is for everybody when God clearly is telling us, and like I think we read about 4 different places, that He's for us and He created other deities for the other nations to follow, right? So it says, unless thou lift up thy eyes unto heaven, and when thou see the sun and the moon and the stars, and even all the hosts of heaven, should be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God had given to have divided unto the nations under heaven, right? So He divided it unto the nations for them to follow. One more. I know I keep saying one more, but this is really one more. Deuteronomy 32:8. When the Most High divided the nations, their inheritance. Well, when He divided the nations after the fall of the Tower of Babel, and He said, you know what? Split this up, divide the nations, and give everybody their own culture and their own language, their own thing to follow. There's going to be your God, your culture, your language. This is what you're going to follow. So it says, when the Most High divided the nations and their inheritance, meaning their culture, their way of life, what they do, when He separated the sons of Adam and set bounds of the people according to the children of Israel. So when He separated the sons of Adam and set bounds to the children, so He separated, He put everybody, every nation, nationality into their respective group and number, okay, their population, okay, this group of people, let's say the Indians, they're going to be 2 billion something people, right? Chinese people, they're going to be 1 billion something people, right? So He set the bounds and divided on how many is going to be, right? And it says, when the Most High divided the nation and their inheritance, when He separated the sons of Adam and set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is His people. So He divided all the nations and gave them their different gods and their respective cultures. Then He took Israel and said, but I'm going to keep these people for myself, right? See how all that comes together? See how that makes sense, right? But when you're indoctrinated into Christianity and other false religions, you tend to think this is a universal thing that God is dealing with everybody. But we can go through this whole book, and even the story that of the Exodus prove that God is not dealing with everyone. He only dealing with His people, right? One more. And one more. My bad. Luke 1:68. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel. What did it say? Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, for He has visited and redeemed who? His people. He has risen up a horn of salvation for us. Who's the us? His people, Israel. For He has spoken by the mouth of His holy prophets, which have been since the world began, that we should be saved from our enemies and from all of the hand of the people that hate us, right? From all of them that hate us. To perform the mercy promised to our fathers. So that is possessive. If I say my fathers, you're going to know I'm talking about my father, my grandfather, his grandfather, grandfather. You're going to know I'm talking lineage. So when we say our fathers, this is what is telling you that Jesus came to do, to save the children of Israel from their enemies as it was promised to their fathers. Where is that room for anybody else? There's none, right? So I'm going to say shalom, peace. Hopefully that was edifying. We're going to continue on in this Exodus thing, even though we're done with the Passover portion of it. But yeah, I'm going to say shalom. Hopefully it was edifying. Peace. I'm out.